Hello, English 136 students. It's really nice to be talking to you, even though I can't see you yet. So, I wanted to record this video for you to watch on Monday so that we didn't have to spend time during the week talking about this, because this is something important that you should come back to later if you forget about something. So, it's good if we have it recorded anyway. Okay, so I'm going to try not to take up too much of your time today. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on, but I do think the syllabus is something really important in this class. And even though you can read through this yourself, which I really hope you do, I really like to go through. Oh my gosh, I'm saying really a lot. I'm sorry. I want to go through this with you myself just because I don't want you to miss anything. And there are some things on here that sometimes people gloss over that are really important. And also, you should definitely show this to your parents because it's really important that they understand some of the things you are going to be accountable for, so that there are no questions about it later. They just know, just like you, from the start, from day one. So, first of all, the syllabus is saying that this is an honors class, and you can tell also because it ends in a 6. So, if you've gone to Springfield Public Schools in middle school or maybe even elementary, I don't know how that works in elementary, but we do a tracking system where you can be in a regular weight, an advanced weight, or an honors weight. So, most of the classes in high school are like that. Some of you maybe are taking a 7-weight class, which is an AP class. For English, though, freshman, sophomore, and junior year, the highest weight you can take is a 6 weight. And then senior year, you can take a 7 weight, which is an AP class. It's AP Literature and Composition. And I teach that right now, and it's also dual credit through Lincoln Land. So it's really beneficial if you want to eventually take that class that you start freshman year in an honors class so that you're the most prepared. Also, I just wanted to talk about that for a second because sometimes I get students freshman year who come into a 6-weight class and they're not quite prepared to be in it. And that could be for a variety of reasons. But if that's the case and you find that some of the things I'm talking about are just overwhelming to you, or you're like, wait a minute, I don't really know if I should be in this class, that's okay. You can still switch to the 5-weight advanced class for a while. You can switch to that class, or maybe just this year you're not ready, and so you switch to 5-weight just for this year, but next year you switch back into the honors class. That's fine too. So I want to make sure that you're comfortable this year because freshman year is already crazy. And then this year being crazy on top of that is double crazy. So I don't want you to get overwhelmed or frustrated. Okay, so what we'll talk about first is that this is a whole year course. Like normal, your English classes have probably always been whole year courses, but this year you might be taking some courses that are only a semester long. So one semester is this, second semester is this. But this class, you'll have me all year long unless you switch to a different weight or something happens in your schedule and you have to switch to a different teacher. Only 2 of us teach 136, myself, Mrs. Taft, and then Mrs. Utes. So she also has a couple sections of this, and we have them different hours in case scheduling needs to shift a little bit. So full year class. And then the course overview right here, that is from the district handbook, and it's the same whether you're in a 4-weight, 5-weight, or 6-weight class. So this isn't different if you're in 5-weight versus 6-weight or anything like that. We are doing the same exact skills. The difference about being in an honors class or a 6-weight class is that this class is a little bit more rigorous. And to explain that a little bit further, we do things a little bit faster than the other classes might. So if we're working on an essay, you probably don't need as much time as some of the other students who haven't worked on essays as much before. Or let's take grammar, for example. That's always something we could talk about as an example. So grammar, you guys should know grammar pretty well when you're in this honors class freshman year. I shouldn't have to teach huge lessons about the parts of speech. You should know those. And if you don't, it should be something that you're willing to look at on your own time, so that we don't have to spend our class time doing that. Whereas in a 5-weight class, the teacher will spend a little bit more time going over something like that. Or in a 4-weight class, they will have longer lessons about some of the grammar skills that are needed to be a good reader and a good writer in high school and beyond. So just to be aware of something like that. So let's see, with reading or writing, I'm not saying that you have to be a faster reader. It helps if you can read things more quickly than if you were in an advanced class. So let's see if I can explain that a little bit better. In this class, you might be assigned to read a chapter in 1 or 2 days. So a chapter might be like 10 pages, maybe 15, depending on what kind of book it is. Most of these books, the chapters aren't more than 15 pages. So I might ask you to read that for the next class period, which would be the next day, and you should be able to do that. You might take 15 minutes to do that, but somebody else in the same class might be like, oh, that'll take me an hour, but you need to be prepared to do that for the next day. If I was teaching the same book in a 5-weight class, I might give them 2 or 3 days to read the same amount of work. So just to kind of explain that a little bit more. And as far as writing, to give you an example with that, I might ask you to do a rough draft of something in a few days, but I might give my 5-weight students, twice as long or an entire Monday through Friday week to get the same amount of writing completed. So it's just doing things at a faster pace because you should be able to, and so that we can do more work with that. Okay. And then I want to go over to the left here where it talks about course information before we talk about grading and all that kind of stuff. So course information. No matter what weight you're in freshman year, we use the same exact textbook that I talked about in a freshman forward video. So I showed what that looked like. I honestly don't use the textbook a lot for short stories or poems. I can find those online and we can use PDFs of those. I do use the textbook when we read the Odyssey because it's an abridged version that I think is very helpful for freshmen. And then Romeo and Juliet is also in the textbook, and I really like the way that our textbook gives explanations and defines things for students that you might not know about versus another version of Romeo and Juliet you might find online. So I do like to use the textbook for that, and that will be available as a PDF in case we're still remote when we read those. Okay, and then we do have a grammar textbook, but I find that things that I can find online are a little bit more helpful than the actual grammar textbook. So I tend not to use that in my honors class because things are a little bit more tailored to what you guys show me you need as far as grammar. Where it says supplemental works, we will read all of these texts this year. They're alphabetical here, but I'll let you know how they'll be broken down into our year. So first semester, we will read Lord of the Flies, which is what we'll start with, probably next week or the week after. And then after that, we'll read Night, which is a memoir about the Holocaust. And then after that, we will dive into the Odyssey. So we'll do that first semester. And then when we come back in January for second semester, we will do Fahrenheit 451, Anthem, we'll do a research paper, and then Romeo and Juliet. There will also be some independent reading involved in this class that we'll talk about probably on Friday of this week. And then also we will do a book club unit, which you guys will do in groups. You've probably done that in middle school before. So we'll do one of those at least this year too. Normally I do it second semester, but we'll see where it fits in our schedule. Required materials for this class, honestly, are pretty simple. I need you to obviously be able to access Canvas or Google Classroom, anything on the internet. So make sure you have internet capability. You just need a folder because sometimes once we're back in the classroom especially, I will give you handouts, or you might want to print things out at home if you have a printer available, which I suggest if you have one, that would be amazing because you might want to print things out. If you don't have one, I can always give you the handouts later when I can meet with you. So a folder to keep all that good stuff in. A notebook would be amazing if you can get a notebook so you can keep all of your notes together. You will be taking handwritten notes in this class, and sometimes you'll be required to take pictures of those notes to show me. So please, please, please make sure you have a notebook that is just dedicated to our class, and it's not mixed with math and science, because I know that happens sometimes. It's gross. Like, you don't mix those together. It's nasty. Okay, writing utensils, that's up to you. I don't care if you use pens or pencils. I will tell you though, based on some experience, if I need you to take a picture of something and send it to me, it is so much better if you can write whatever that is with a pen, because pencil is really hard to see when you take a picture and send it to me. You will need some access to age-appropriate novels for you to read for independent reading. And there's a variety of ways you can get that if you don't go to the public library. There are some things I can talk to you about later, like Overdrive. There's a SOAR app. There's lots of different ways you can access that, so we'll talk about that later. And then I already talked about the internet, yes, and a printer. If you have one, that would be fantastic. Okay, so I'm scrolling back up here, right here where it says grading and assignments. This is different in high school than it was in middle school. So big deal here, please listen, pay attention. Grading and assignments. So we have a weighted point system in high school, and for your English courses, and honestly most of your other classes, your assessments are going to be broken up into formative and summative. And each one of those is worth a different percentage of your total grade. So if you know math well, you'll be able to figure this out more easily. I don't have a board available right now, or I'd try to do some math, but I'm really bad at it, so just bear with me. Okay. Formative things that you will do, that you'll get grades for, that total combined will only be worth 30% of your total final grade. So formative things in this class would be quizzes, smaller writing assignments that are kind of like rough drafts or practice writing, most of your homework, if you get any, small little assignments that you would do, like, hey, create a Flipgrid for this, or do this Padlet activity, or fill out this worksheet for me about what you just read. All of that stuff is formative because it's practice. So if I say like, hey, we're doing this for practice, that's formative. Summative grades are things that are like a bigger deal. So a test over something that we've already practiced, or an essay about something we've already talked about a lot and taken a lot of notes out and already done drafts about. So those things will be summative grades, and those are worth 70% of your total final grade. Okay, so there are probably going to be way more formative assessments during the school year than there are summative. So during a quarter, for example, you might only have 3 to 5, and 5 is a little bit of a stretch, of summative assignments, whereas your formative assignments could have been like you had 20 or 25 or 30 of those. So we do a lot of practice before we do a big assignment so that it's not going to affect your grade that much. But whatever you're thinking right now, just do all of your work to the best of your ability and you should be fine. If you're struggling, then definitely please talk to me so we can figure something out. So it could be maybe you're in the wrong section and you need to be in a 5-weight class instead for a while, until you're more comfortable with doing things. Or maybe you need to practice more on your own instead of just doing the practice that we do in class. So I can give you some other activities to do outside of what's just counted as a formative grade that will help you. Okay, so just make sure you're letting me know if you're struggling with something so that I know, and that I know what we need to do to help you. Okay, class policies. Most of this was from when we would be in school, but it could still apply to remote learning as well. Be prepared for class. Like, you can do that at home too. Be ready. Have your notebook there. Have your folder there. Have your work with you. Be engaged in class. So class participation, when we have Zooms, I want you guys to talk. I want to hear what you're saying. We all learn from each other. You're not just learning from me this year, you're going to learn from each other. And I'll be saying that a lot because sometimes people forget that you need to listen to your peers and that they're going to help you learn as well. Sometimes you're going to be leading discussion and I won't. Like, you're going to be teaching each other sometimes. Rubrics. You'll get rubrics if we have a large assignment. So I'm sure you've heard of rubrics before. There's those little boxes that tell you like, hey, this is what's expected of you for this assignment. So you will get those for large assignments, especially your writing assignments, and we will go over them before they're due. And then this little caveat here is just to say, normally, under normal circumstances, which is most of the time, you won't get a two big assignments at the same time. Like if I assign a big essay that's a summative grade, I would want you to get that grade back before you have another essay assignment due. Because how can you fix what you've done wrong previously if you don't know what you did wrong? You know what I mean? Okay. Here's information for how to contact me. You can find that everywhere, so I won't talk about that right now. Okay, right here, this is kind of important. On my website, hopefully you've already clicked on a link that said SHS Remote Learning Expectations. Like those are great and wonderful, and all of the teachers helped make that. So I really think you need to abide by those. But there were a few things that we need to talk about that are specific to this class on top of those. So don't disregard those. Those are still applicable to this class. However, we are going to have virtual lessons every weekday, Tuesday through Friday, which means they'll be live. We'll be in a Zoom every day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. If we go back to being hybrid, we might also be following that schedule. So you would Zoom in whatever day. But for right now, just understand that Monday will be a remote day where I might not be talking to you live one-on-one. But on the other days of the week, you are required to sign in to the Zoom for that day. Okay? If you have a question about that, please let me know. Make sure that you're on time. I do have to take attendance within a certain amount of time. If you're late to class, it's going to be like you were late to class at school. There are 6 minutes in between classes, so you should have plenty of time to log out of your old class or Zoom, get into your new class, and log into that Zoom. Okay? If you need to go get a drink or something, log in first so I know you're there and tell me hey, I'm going to go get a drink. I'll be right back in 30 seconds. And then that's fine. But please log in first before you do something like that and let me know. Another thing for my class specifically, when you're in a Zoom or we're online, please use your first and last name, not a nickname that you want people to call you or anything like that. Please use your correct first and last name so that I know who you are, especially because you're a freshman and we don't know you yet. So that will help a lot, and it will lessen all the confusion and chaos that happens with that. I'm going to leave the chat function open for now because I'm going to trust you. But please, if we're using chat for something, we need it to be school related. And if you're going to privately chat other students, please make sure it is about school and not something else, because that is going to be extremely distracting. To me, that's like you're talking to somebody in the middle of a discussion we're having in class. It's the same thing. So please don't do that. And then also, I'd like you guys to, at least at first, please mute yourself when you enter the Zoom if you're not already muted, because there's a lot of background noise happening in everybody's homes, and it's really loud in Zoom. So please stay muted unless you need to say something, or I've asked you to unmute yourself, or if we're having a whole class discussion, or you're in a small group in a breakout session, you could be unmuted. But for the most part, let's stay muted unless something is important or you're called on. Okay, late work, we can do this pretty quickly. Obviously, you're going to be turning in work online, and we're going with the same policy that we've had previously. If something's turned in late after the due date and due time, it's late. So that means you're going to get half credit. And you can only turn things in 1 day late for half credit. So 1 day to me means 24 hours. So we're going to go with that. So some of the assignments that are loaded into your modules right now are due on certain days, but the times are different. Like if we were in school, I would want you to turn in an assignment during our class period. But some of your remote teachers are going to say hey, I'll give you until 3:30. So if you have a break during the day, or after 2:17, if you want to get it done, you can turn it in by 3:30, right? So to me, that's fine too. If I have something set for it being due at 3:30, as long as I get it by 3:30, it's on time, you could get full credit. If you turn it in at 3:31, it's late. So we need to try to work on that and make sure that you're remembering to turn things in on time. I had a lot of students in the spring who were like, oh, I forgot to hit the submit button. you need to be really good about hitting the submit button. That's something you just need to learn how to do. Okay. Talk to me if something messed up, if you had a tech problem, whatever, and you're like, oh my gosh, I really did submit it on time, but this blah, blah, blah happened. I don't, whatever. Just let me know. We'll work it out. You can email me. You can email me to have a Zoom with you one-on-one. There's a thing called Remind that hopefully you'll sign up for today. You can chat me and Remind and talk to me about it and send me pictures in there, whatever you need to do. Just talk to me. But if this is a constant habit, it's going to be late and it's half credit. Okay, makeup work. If you're sick and you cannot attend school, so if you can't come to the Zooms that day or whatever the circumstance, you still have to call the school. Well, your parents have to call the school and tell them that to be excused. Otherwise, if you're not in the Zoom, I mark you absent, and it could show up as unexcused if no one called you in for that day. So if something says unexcused on your attendance, your teachers do not have to give you credit for anything you do that day. So that might be an issue for some people. So if you're like, oh, I forgot to log into Zoom and then my computer shut down, blah, 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 but then your parent never called it in, your attendance is going to say unexcused, and that could be a huge problem. So make sure if that happens, your parents call the school and explain it so it can get unexcused, however they're going to do that. I don't know what the policy is. Your parents will have to talk to the school about that. So let's say you're excused, like you were sick for a couple days and you missed the Zooms and the work. Like your attendance will say excused, and I will know that. So you need to email me or however you want to get a hold of me and say, hey, I missed the last 2 days because I was sick in bed. What do I need to do? Can I just go in and make up my work? Yes, probably, right? I'd like you to talk to me about it, but you can go in and make up your work. And as long as you do it within that amount of time that you're allotted, it will count for full credit. So for example, you're sick one day, you get 1 extra day to make up your work. You're sick 2 days and it's excused, you get 2 extra days to make up your work, and so on. All right. If we were in school, I'd want you to hand me your work, but obviously you can't do that. So as long as you submit it within your allotted amount of time, you're good. If it's a quiz or a test that you cannot gain access to because the time frame is up, you need to let me know so that we can work that out and I can open it back up for you to take or give you a different one or whatever. So make sure you're looking at the lesson plans. If you were absent on a day we had a quiz or a test, you definitely need to talk to me as soon as possible about how to make that up within the allotted amount of time. Okay. Please make sure you're still checking my lesson plans in your CUME folder on the intranet, because, if I have something logged in Canvas or if your teacher's using Google Classroom, they might not have everything explained for you there because maybe they explained it in a Zoom. So if you were absent and you missed the Zoom and you're just looking at your Canvas assignments, you might have missed something, but it's probably explained in your teacher's lesson plans, which are found on the intranet. So you might have to check both places, or just ask your teacher. All right, specific consequences. I've kind of gone over these a little bit as we've been going through this. A tardy for remote learning is that you're not logged into the Zoom on time. So you have 6 minutes in between classes. You're expected to be in your class's Zoom at a certain time. So I'm probably going to take attendance as soon as possible in the Zoom. And once I input attendance, it's in there. Like I can't change it. So you'd be counted as late or tardy, and we would have to talk to the attendance people about how to fix that. So please try not to be late. Like I said, if you need to go get something or go to the bathroom, log in first, tell me what you're doing, and then I marked you present. All right, cheating. Please, please, please do not cheat. That means cheating on a quiz, cheating on a test, plagiarizing in your writing. And I've had some freshmen have issues with plagiarizing before, and sometimes they're like, but I didn't know that was plagiarizing. Plagiarizing is when you use somebody else's work. So it's like cheating, right? Cheating is when it's not your own work. It's use somebody else to help you get the work done. So that counts for on formative assignments and summative assignments, not just summative. If I give you, or anybody, if a teacher gives you a homework assignment and you're like, oh, it's just a homework assignment, I'm going to copy so-and-so's, that's technically plagiarizing because you used somebody else's work and turned it in as your own. Don't do that, please. You can get a 0 in the grade book. Most likely that's what will happen. And you get a referral to the discipline administrator. And so your discipline person is going to be Mr. Koger. So I would have to tell him that you plagiarized. So he'd talk to you about that, and you get a 0 for the assignment. It also goes in your record for the year. So if you do that in another class, the teacher is going to say, like, wow, you've already done this twice? Like, that's a huge problem. And then I would have to tell Mrs. Gordy, your academic advisor. And also I have to email her. I was like, a whole slew of people that are going to know this. It would be bad, so don't do it. So plagiarizing is on small assignments too. Not just like, well, I thought it was only a big deal if I did it on an essay. No, it's anytime you're using somebody else's work and saying that it's yours. Okay? So please do not do that. I know that sometimes remotely you might be like more inclined to use something to help you cheat on things like quizzes or tests. But honestly, if you think about it, that doesn't help you learn. That might help you get a better grade, but you're cheating yourself in the end, because then you're not going to know what you need to know to be successful for the next task. So that might be hard to understand right now, but it just doesn't help you in the end. So think about it this way. If you're learning to become a doctor in college, and you cheated to become a doctor, would you really want that person to be your doctor? No. They don't know how to do anything on their own. They cheated to get through. Like, that's not the kind of person you want to be. So you want to be able to do things on your own. Okay. Please, please, please be active in class. I know sometimes people are shy and you might be nervous or whatever, but hopefully eventually everybody will be able to participate in class through whatever means we can, until we can get back in the classroom. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. I just want you to feel comfortable in class. And then cell phones, okay. We know when you're on your cell phones in class, it's pretty obvious, even though you might think like, I am so sneaky. Like it's pretty obvious. Just sometimes we don't say anything. And I've had Zooms with my students already this summer in my AP class because they had to do summer work. And even last spring, like, we can tell when you're on your cell phone. I mean, we can tell when you're distracted pretty easily because it's like we can see your face. If you're not looking at the camera, it's pretty obvious. So anyway, please don't do that, because then you're missing a lot of things, especially since we have shortened class periods. Like, shortened class period, don't have as much time. Please pay attention. All right, I think I've bored you enough with the syllabus for today, and I probably spent a long time on it. I'm sorry. So I'll be done now. I'm going to stop talking. If you have any questions about it, please, please, please let me know. And also, we will have time in Zooms this week to ask questions too if you don't know yet how to get a hold of me a different way. Okay. All right. I'll see you tomorrow.